Welcome back. Let's talk about Niveous. This guy is a powerhouse. He's definitely one of the top characters that you see coming up on lots of teams over and over again, and for good reason. Let's go ahead and get into some of his traits and abilities and kind of what makes him so useful. So starting off, we have magical. He's going to take less damage from non-physical attacks. Flying as well, taking less damage from melee. Draconic empowerment. Immune to lightning and fire. Whenever another dragon or summons attacks an enemy, this hero has a chance to make a follow-up basic attack on that enemy. This is very helpful, I would say, especially that second part. So immunity to fire and lightning, very helpful. But the ability to make that follow-up attack when another dragon or summons attacks, this happens a lot if you've got impaired with Alrakis. And that's generally, like, a lot of Alrakis' attacks aren't nearly as high damage, for me at least. But when they're followed up by Niveous, and his attack is quite high, his damage is quite high, then this ends up wiping characters pretty quickly. It's just very, very helpful. So I'd say that's one thing that's really making him powerful. Dragon Scales. All dragon allies are immune to debuffs for the first round and take reduced damage from Chaos, Basic, and Epic attacks. So again, really helpful for survivability. These dragons don't have, I don't know if across the board, but Niveous and Alrakis don't have really high numbers for their defense or their max health, but they do have a few of these traits. And you've got magical, you've got flying, you've got dragon scales, and then when we get to Alrakis, you'll see even more damage reducing traits. And so that helps them be more survivable. And then, you can make them the way you can kind of use the runes to make the type of character or the type of team you're looking for. You can make them very attack-based or very defensive. My goal for this team, for the team I've talked about a few times here, Niveous, Alrakis, Agnon, and Lorelei, is to make them very defensive so that I can use them with all that continuous, every round healing to make it consistently through the Tower of Ponage. That's the plan. Pretty good success so far, and I've got quite a ways to go. You can see the characters I'm talking about now, they're only 2-star, they are fully ascended, but we've got a lot of work to do with the runes and a lot of work to increase their star levels. Alright, again, another thing to point out here, Mystical 3, so boosted damage versus tanks and slow targets. So this really helps out. I feel like there's a couple general teams that are in the meta right now, and the slow team is one of them that's really powerful. There we talk about Grandar, Thrax, Moroku, and then whoever they have for the fourth character, but a lot of teams end up having those three characters, these slow teams that have a lot of synergies together. And so here he's going to do even higher damage to tanks and slow targets, and a few of those are tanks as well. I think maybe all three of those characters are both tanks, and all three of them definitely are slow. So you're going to do additional damage there, which will be helpful, especially dealing with that very common team. And then here we see at the beginning of each round, reduces enemies' current health by 10%. This effect persists even if the hero dies. The effect is doubled when enemies are affected by the Doom debuff. This really, Niveous couples so well with Alrakis, doing 10% of their health, their current health, damage is a lot, and then the Doom debuff is a pretty common debuff when you've got Alrakis. So Alrakis, I believe, has at least 2 ways, if not more, to impose the Doom debuff, and there's no way to take it off unless you've got an Alrakis on the other side as well. So you're going to end up doing a lot of damage, and it's consistent damage. Sometimes, as long as you can survive, you'll just see the other side, their health just dropping down, turn after turn. Your health is increasing. Lorelei's, unless you've got Doom or you've got Serenity's debuff on you where you can't heal, Lorelei's going to keep that whole team of flyers at high health, and on the other side they're going to be dropping down a little bit at a time, even if you weren't using any skills, and then your skills you can use to focus on taking out that next character. Alright, next one. Epic Frostborn. And this is, again, one of the really classic empowering skills or traits of this character. So, Epic Frostborn, this hero stores power over 3 turns. When fully charged, the hero resurrects at the end of the round. exploding and dealing AoE chaos damage to all enemies, cleanses doom from all allies when resurrecting, and applies snow days to all allies. One thing you'll notice is that I don't fully understand the 3 turns aspect of this. I don't know if it just happens like 2nd to then 5th, or I'm not sure exactly what's happening with this, but what you'll notice is when you're fighting Niveous in PvP, he will resurrect on the 2nd round. So often he'll be killed on the 1st round, and then if he's going to be killed and you see him die on the 1st round, he'll be resurrected right away in the 2nd round. You don't have to wait like 3 additional rounds or something, and then right away he's ready to be used. He's full health. So he will resurrect that way, and when we get to abilities, we'll talk about Cold Summons, which I would say is his other key or classic ability that set him apart. They've got a lot of... Niveous and Alrekis both have a lot of damage reduction that are helpful, and they've got chaos damage, and so that's helpful as well. But that resurrection can keep him in the game unless he's cleared out of it by something like having a Moroku on the other side or something, so he's absorbed. Then he's not going to be able to resurrect. But if that's not an issue, if his body's not removed, then he will just keep resurrecting as long as the battle goes on. Generally every 3 rounds, but you do have it on the 2nd round, which is, like I said, still a bit of a mystery to me, but a happy mystery when he's on your team. Okay, so his first attack, basic ranged chaos attack on a single target. It does quite a bit of damage. Chance to do 2 basic ranged attacks on the target. I think this is probably, they just rewrite, or it's overwritten when you get the epic. 100% chance to apply Chaos Burn, and if the enemy is killed, Chaos Burn can be applied to all, or is applied to all remaining enemies. So again, some of that damage that will just kind of eat down the health over time, it can be a big benefit, and he hits pretty hard as it is. Alright, Cold Summon. So this is the one I was saying, one of the key abilities. So he summons a horde of ice golems, which do quite a bit of damage on their own, and then he revives any dragon allies, and that's, Alrekis is kind of a key one that you'll see there, and replaces dead allies with ice golems. So if they're not a dragon, then they're going to come back as an ice golem, but even the ice golems do quite a bit of damage. They can be really helpful, and they will jump in the way of Niveous if he's going to take like a melee hit or something, or if he's going to take a hit in general, a single target hit, then these golems will jump in the way, they'll take the hit, he survives and keeps on attacking. It's very powerful. It's also a great way to bring Alrekis back. So if Alrekis dies, if Niveous dies, then he can resurrect himself. If Alrekis dies, then Niveous can resurrect him with Cold Summons. I have had matches where Niveous dies right away, Alrekis is doing fine, Alrekis does a couple things, and then he dies, Niveous comes back to life, he uses Cold Summons, he brings Alrekis back, and you're just rolling with this and continuing to cause a bunch of damage, and doing really well. Alright, and that's a lot of fun to use, just in terms of enjoyable gameplay. So Heart of Chaos is the next one, basically three attacks. You choose the first one, the next 2 hits seem to be random. And there's a chance to apply Chaos Burn, adds Snow Day to all allies, and starts power. So you'll have the choice between Cold Summons or Heart of Chaos when you get started. And sometimes I hold off on Cold Summons if it looks like it's going to be close and I think I can keep Niveous alive, or kind of either way, because I know I can bring Alrekis back. And if you use Cold Summons right away, that's 5 turns you have to wait before you can potentially bring Alrekis back. So sometimes I go right away with Heart of Chaos. Cold Summons does do a ton of damage, but if they've got someone that looks like they're going to be able to heal through it, then maybe I want a little more sustain, then I'll hold off and go with Heart of Chaos right away. Icy Howl, so you've got to wait those 5 turns for it to be available, but it does quite a bit of damage as well, purging buffs on each enemy, but similarly, really it's a good amount of damage that comes out of this. But by that point, by the 5th round, usually the match is mostly decided. And he does have an epic, and this is very helpful, so his basic attacks have a chance of doing much more damage as well. Now we've got some runes that also help buff up that epic attack. He can do a lot of damage, chance to do ranged chaos attack on a target and a random enemy, so you get a double attack. Attack applies Chaos Burn, and if the enemy is killed, Chaos Burn is applied to the other enemy. So that's written in with his basic attack now too. But you also get these nice stat bonuses. That's the part that I think like Lorelei and Thrax don't have epics, And it's not just they're missing out on an additional effect, they're also missing that additional, those additional stats. And these stats appear to multiply out against all the rest of the stats. So if you have a 2% increase in attack, it's not just 2% of the base, it's 2% of your current value. And that's more powerful, right? If the base might be, say your base level is 1,000 or something like that, and you had a 2%, then you're going to get 20. But if you've now boosted up and you're using runes and your base level or your attack level is at 10,000, and you get a 2% bonus, then it's 200. It just makes a much bigger difference. So these multiply across, they appear to, as I'm like testing them and checking the numbers, and that makes it more valuable than maybe it would otherwise seem. You might think like 2%, that's not a big deal. But if it's on top of all the rest of your buffs, and it's 2% of all those other things that you're getting, you know, all the attack that you got from your runes, well, it's 2% more of all of that too. And then here, once you add it up to each, you know, you're up to level 8 here, you get 16% of all those other things. So it can be a pretty significant bonus when you look across that. There's another synergy here, Agnon, we'll talk about him in a different video, but he has a buff to all flying heroes attack. And so again, just all these flying hero synergies that seem to fit well together and have a healer that works really well with them. Some of the other teams that have a lot of synergies don't necessarily have a healer for that sustain, but this team really does, and it works together really well. That's all I have to say about Niveous. I'm really enjoying using this character, hope you guys do too. Let me know if there are any questions or comments, you know, send them down in the comments, and I'm sure I've got a lot more to learn on these as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.